You family, and welcome to another episode of Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life on your own terms. I'll never get tired of saying that you're really creating your own narrative. And you know, there's so many exciting elements. There's so many exciting voices, family. Just remember, order that algorithm in your YouTube, in your search engine, but mainly in your YouTube, so that you now start to hear the voices, the new African voices that are creating this Renaissance energy across Africa, this Renaissance thinking, this new thinking that are adding a new energy, a new vibe. I can't even explain it. I'm so excited to our consciousness, to our group consciousness. We are truly creating our own narrative. And there's a lady who I was listening to. Oh my God, she's a Sangoma. I can't remember what her name is. A beautiful woman. And she was talking about how, African spirituality is very complex because there's so many different parts of it. And each of us, our African spirituality is defined. I mean, even African is the wrong word, but is defined through our own kind of experience. Anything that the teachers are sharing with you has been through their experience. And every new dispensation requires a new Bible, requires a new way of thinking, requires a new conversation, requires new narratives. And how exciting that we get to be among the narrative builders for the next generation, for our own generation. Like, how epic is that, family? And some are disconnecting themselves because they're in the Jesus narrative and they're trying to bring it back around. Like, we get to, with all our experience and every crazy thing we went through and everything we've read and everyone we've had conversations with and everything we've done, we get now to feed into a new narrative that our ancestors, ancient ones, are just going to come and go, wah! And of course, we honor them in the wind. As always, we are so honored that our ancestors stay with us, and that, our ancient ones and our spiritual team are just always covering us. We've never felt as safe, as not alone as when we connected with our spiritual team. And that's why we speak about it, when we connected with our ancestors. And for me, it was recognizing that my ancestors had kept me alive through my most crazy, most rebellious moments. And it was just like I was going to keep having those crazy rebellious moments until I recognized that I wasn't going anywhere. So I might as well get to the ancestors' business. But those are stories for the day's family. I released a show the other day where I said that we now control the gates of life and death. And so many got it. My tribe, you guys, you got it. My nation, you overstood it. But of course, there are those who are like, where are the gates of life and death? The 102 Christians came through as well and were like, that's blasphemous. Only God controls the gates of life and death. And so I had to go back to my spiritual team and ask, by the way, because I'm just an oracle, family. I'm just a messenger. I deliver the message. Sometimes I'll delve deeper into the message, but this is my work, as I told you. So this is my one part of my great work. Maybe I'll explain it in a future episode. So I had to go back to the ancient ones and be like, yo, by the way, what did you mean by the gates of life and death? Because it sounded so much dramatic when they were, when I was downloading the message, when they were communicating that to me. And they told me that the gates of life and death are here and here. Death became a concept when we accepted it as our truth, when it was put into our narrative. And we've lived, the previous book of life was a death book. It was literally a death culture. And there's so much wickedness that has been done, family, because this thing of thinking that, the gates of life and death were controlled, or that they were hijacked, family, literally. They were taken out of our control. It put people on a journey of perpetual return, where they couldn't escape here and go back to their cosmic worlds. They couldn't escape here and go back to their cosmic families. They were literally stuck here on this recycling. The souls were just being recycled. I think there's this guy on Instagram, he's called The Raw Report. I don't know what he has an app. And he gives some really, if you want to go to some other depths, definitely check him out. Another black brother like all of us. And, he talks about this perpetual return. I think he puts it in the soul trap. That's what he calls it. And, it's just like we were on this perpetual return where you couldn't escape the cycle of life and death. And you were just stuck on the wheel like the hamster wheel. And you'd go and you'd see this white light when you died, or you'd be trained to see this white light. But what you were actually seeing was literally like the quote unquote lab where your soul was going to be recycled and forced to come again. And so we also created karmic loops where we were stuck with certain people and places because we never got to ma'at the whole situation. Create a resolution, study what we did, what we didn't do, how, find our hearts as light as a feather and all that stuff. We were stuck in this wheel, family. And the reason so many master teachers, master healers, master seers, we've never had this many. Like the Great Mother has never sent this many of us on such an assignment. You know why? It's because the cosmic children also got stuck on this wheel of life and death. And they were literally moving to create like a slave planet, a prison planet. That's what the New World Order is all about. But it's not going to come together because now it's like collided with the Enlightenment. And so, Enlightenment is going to totally just disrupt everything as we're seeing and take all of us to a higher consciousness, whether you're ready, whether you're not. If you don't make it, we'll see you in the next life kind of thing. No, well, we won't see you because this is our last lifetime, but others will see you in the next life. But the reason so many masters are here, it's because we're breaking that wheel of life and death. And that wheel of birth and death is in your mind, family. This is the book that ends all books, that closes all chapters, that shifts you once and for all onto your correct timeline here and onto your and returns you to your cosmic family. And a lot of us are here because as original ones, as gods and goddesses, whatever you want to put it. I know some people are still uneasy with that. As master builders, there were fragments of ourselves in our ancestors or in our descendants. Let me put it like that. There are fragments of us in our descendants that got trapped in that wheel of life and death. And so when the Great Mother announced that she was breaking that wheel of life and death, we also saw it as an opportunity to come in and claim those fragmented parts that had been forever stuck going round and round and round with humanity, creating the Savior complex, creating the Jesus complex. I was just reading somewhere where they were saying there were 16 saviors before Jesus who had the same experience. And I mean, the whole Jesus story, I don't even know I'm getting into this, has been taken from the world. And it's just like making a martyr of the chosen one in your family, in your community, in your nation every time. Where that's the energetic footprint. Like, you know how many people have been okay with taking out their own children because of Jesus? Because God sacrificed his only son, so who am I not to? Family, that cycle is done. Because when those things happen, you go back into that wheel. And now you're traumatized and in that wheel. And what was happening is like great ones, the vibration just kept falling and falling and falling. Because there was no resolution and they were just harvesting our energy of pain, of confusion, of darkness. Which is why some people have held on to God with dear life, held on to Jesus with dear life, because it's the only thing that makes sense for a spiritual being who is trapped in a human concentration camp. Death is an illusion. I don't know how to explain that to you. Unless you're there, you won't get it. We are spiritual beings having this human experience. That's how this whole thing started. But in this lifetime, we're here to collect. It's not just about having this human experience, but it's about collecting those parts of us that got trapped here. Because that wheel is broken now. That wheel is over. We are in a new dispensation. We're in a new book. We're in a new narrative that we're all contributing to. So the reason the masters are back, the gods and goddesses are back, is because we honor the spirit in the wind always, is because that wheel has been broken. And once again, we can gather those parts of ourselves that had gotten stuck here. And we can offer the magnificence of our world, of our being, of our experience, to restore Mama Earth, but to almost like take her to the next level. Because she too is going into a higher version of herself. She too has been released. Because we are such an intimate part of her that our imprisonment was her imprisonment. Our colonization has been her colonization. Our slavery and rape and violence and abuse has been her slavery, rape, violence, and abuse. And now she's out of that cycle too. Because we're so intimately connected to everything. That's why the highest level Buddhas, I think, it reached a point where they wouldn't even kill a spider or an ant. They'd rather take it out of the house and things like that. The gates of life and death are here and here, family. You literally only die if you think you're going to die. But this whole program is like a death complex. It's like a death education. And so sadly, many may not make it this life to shift their thinking in time, to ascend and not die, to fly and not die. But the next ones will make it for sure. And that's why there's so much emphasis on the children at such a time as this. And I remember many, many years ago, I wrote a book about this, about getting out of the death wheel. And it was like fly or die, fly or die. But at all costs, avoid the great lie. Tu kopa moja.